Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Becca and Aisha. Laura, Curtis, we thank you for your time this afternoon. This is Dennis Ebudage, and the idea here is to share what we can in terms of outcomes. And it's very important if we are going to get a return on investment. And for our project directors, we thank you for being here this afternoon. Becca, back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis. Hi, everyone. Becca Hansen here. I am the program specialist with BFRDP, and I was very excited to meet a lot of you at the recent project directors meeting, and hopefully we'll be able to meet lots more of you in the coming years as you all are working on your projects, or also I know some of you all are finishing up your projects as well. We're going to start out with Curtis Mockin from University of Minnesota, who will be talking about the results verification system. And then Laura will be talking about report. We have a BFRDP outcomes-based reporting guide as well that I'll be sharing the link to. And after that, we will open it up for questions. So if you do have questions along the way, please do put them in the chat. And then we'll save those at the end, at the very end, after all the presentation, to go over those. So last thing I would say is please mute yourself. We're all in a meeting together, so I don't think
Is this going to bother you, or should I?
Make sure you're muted, and I'll turn it over to you, Curtis. And let me stop sharing too.
All right. Thank you, Becca. And first, let me also introduce one of my coworkers, Megan Engel, who has turned her camera on. She is our RVS specialist in training. So I am trying to pass off all of my RVS knowledge to her, but I will still be around to help you out. So it was great, as Becca said, it was great to see so many of you in Denver a couple of weeks ago. We really do appreciate the opportunity to, after 5 years having been back in person, and be able to actually get to talk to you all once again and see everybody. So first, I've got about 20 minutes or so here where I'm going to really kind of go over RVS and kind of what reporting for your BFRDP project looks like. I know many of you are getting close to the time where you are having to think about your final report. For example, we just had to do that for a previous, I think our 2019 clearinghouse grant. So I was having to think through this. So hopefully some of that comes through as I am presenting here today. Let me click back into my presentation. So reporting on your BFRDP project, you've likely heard me say this over the years, but there's two systems that we're going to talk about here: the results verification system, and then Laura is going to talk about report. You're likely familiar with report because you've been doing that, but the results verification system is also a system that BFRDP is using to help organize all of your materials, all of your meetings, all of that into one place. And then there is a document that we can produce out of RVS that will help feed into what you are putting into report. So there are then 4 steps. First, you needed to create your RVS account. So I realize that most of you, I hope most of you have an RVS account, but I kind of wanted to go over, I know many of you haven't submitted anything into RVS, so I do want to go over that. No judgment here, just it's an opportunity for you to kind of be refreshed on all of that. So you did have to create an RVS account, and then you had to initialize your BFRDP project in the results verification system, or RVS. And then once that's done, then it rolls into the reporting side. And then once you've completed your report in RVS, you can then download a document and then take that over into report. Before I jump into RVS, because I do want to spend time there showing some of these things, let me actually just click next on my screens here. We do have several help documents. that are available at z.umn.edu/BFRDP RVS help. This screen is a little old, but we have several videos of trainings that we've done in the past. And then we also have all of these documents, one of which the initialization tutorial, the reporting tutorial, and then that RVS to report tutorial document will actually help you walk through, take this section from RVS. It lines up with this, all of those things as we go through it. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump into RVS. And I'm very quickly going to show you what the initialization is. Just in case you need to go through and do that. So I'm going to go into my initialization example that I have here. If you have not done this yet, what I would suggest to get you into the reporting side of RVS is to do three things. One, enter one, let me go back to project summary. Just enter your project summary that you had from your application, and you'll just be able to copy and paste that right in. This is just a text box where you can copy and paste that in. Then you can go to outcomes and just put in one or two outcomes that kind of, with the risk areas and the risk area topics that really kind of highlight what your program has been doing. So you would just enter a result or an outcome as we have been calling them. So you enter your outcome, you pick a topic area from production, marketing, business management, legal, and people. And then based on what you select, so let's go to business management, these topics then change. So if you're working on business planning, and that's kind of the main thrust of what you've been doing, select business and strategic planning. So just enter one or two of those for now. The reason being is that if I open up a new tab and go to farmanswers.org and click into BFRDP projects, once your initialization is added, then you can go into the project awards and you can actually see the other projects that have been awarded. So, and why we want you to enter at least one or two outcomes is because then this topic area, you're able to be found in this list. So that is the initialization. The other thing you would want to enter is that amount awarded. So then once you do that, you just submit it and then let us know that you've done that so that we can make sure that we get that approved and that it rolls over into reporting. Okay. And I do see Vicky's and Future Harvest questions there, so we'll come back to those. But I'm going to jump into the reporting side, which is where everything else happens. So I'm going to go find my reporting example. And I'm going to click the pencil to get into that. And for some of you, you may not have seen RVS in a few years. It might look just a little bit different because we did do an upgrade about a year and a half ago now. So things work a little bit better. But once you click into your project, you'll see on this first page when the reports were due, when you submitted them, and then you can actually download a copy of any of those reports that you've submitted. If you go down to the project information page, this is just some basic information. That should be something you'll want to go ahead and fill out in the initialization as well, but that will just flow over. Project people. Let's talk about project people really quickly here, because what we're adding here is anyone who needs to have access to report on your program in RVS. So if you have had some turnover with your project and you have new people who are now going in and being the ones responsible for putting in the reports, they'll need to have access. So to get access, they'll need to register with RVS. And then whoever you are, whether you're the project director, you're the person who's been entering this, you're going to click add new on either co-project director or the project access user, and you're just going to put their email address in there. If they do not have an account, then you'll need to have that person register with that email, and then you can come back and add them in. So that's the first thing. I know I've talked to several people over the last several weeks who have said, I don't have access to this because I'm new to my organization, or I don't know what RVS is. RVS at its core is for BFRDP, it's a grants management system, but it's a place where you can actually enter your reports in that are more focused on what your outreach type program is. So now let's get into the details of the sections here. And I'm not going to go too in depth on all of these, because if you do click on this resources button, that is where you will access, you can actually access all of those other reporting tutorials, the videos that we've done in the past. So again, that's that instruction or that resources button, or you can actually get section level help. Anytime you see that little question mark there, if you click on that, that will give you section level help for whatever section that you're on. So we do have lots of places to find information as you go through. So let's kind of set this up a little bit here. Progress notes. This is where you can discuss your highlights, what's happened with your project, successes, challenges, all of those things. This is your opportunity to share what's been going on in your project with Dennis, Becca, and Aisha. They go in and review this. They are the only other ones outside of your project team who will see what goes into the progress notes section. You can also see that we timestamp and we put what you had previously down below. So once you've submitted the report, if you can't remember what you put in a previous report, it's timestamped and it's down below here. So you can quickly access all of that as you're going through your report. That's the section that is definitely required for each report that you submit in RVS. The other sections are really building towards your final report. So educational materials, promotional materials, evaluations, and reports, you may not have anything to add into those sections, in your first report or your second report. But by the time you get to your final report, you should have something that will go into each of these sections. So you can, and I'll just forego actually going in and seeing what is required for each of those. Audience emphasis. You're just going to select what audiences you specifically targeted with your project. If you scroll down below, you'll see the proposed, what you put into your initialization. And then you get to your participants served. So I do want to spend some time talking about this page here because of this word unique. So what we are looking for here is the total number of unique participants who participated in your program. So what do we mean by unique, or had unique and then meaningful engagement? Unique means that if you have, let's say you have a series of meetings and you have one producer who comes to each meeting, do they count as however many they came to, or do they count as one? Well, in this case, since we're talking about unique, we're talking about you would just enter that person once. Once we get to the delivery section where you're putting in the meetings, webinars, all of those things, that is where you are actually going to report. They would come in each time. Now, the other question here is meaningful engagement. And what do we mean by that? Well, really, they need to have some level of interaction with the project. So when we think about website visits, we tend to not think of those as meaningful engagement because they're just coming to get information. We still have a place where you can report those, but it's not necessarily meaningful engagement. They're still getting really good information, but not necessarily that engagement part. If they come to a meeting, if they come to a webinar, that is definitely meaningful engagement. And then down below, we have some cumulative numbers. So these numbers you would enter in the first with each report, and then you would just add on each year. So if in the first year you had 10 people that started farming, and then in the second year you had an additional 15, the second report, you would just overwrite that 10 and put 25. So you're just adding on throughout the life of the project. Again, RVS is built towards building towards your final report. Then we go down to the outcomes. Results is what it's listed here, but I do want to jump over. I put in the chat a little bit earlier, the link to the project director meeting. So if you go there and you actually scroll down to day 2, you can actually go into this outcomes presentation here where Kevin, our director, actually did talk about what outcomes are. You can also look at what Amelia discussed with evaluation methodology. So you can actually get a few more resources there. Once you do need to add some different ones here, you can just click add new item. You enter the result, that outcome. Again, pick the topic area, pick the topic. What's the producer action? Did they understand something? Did they develop something, or did they implement something? And then just a few more questions there. Now, outcomes really is the central part of what the results verification is asking for. These should be closely tied with your evaluation questions once you get to that point. Let's jump down to delivery. Delivery, again, is where you're going to add new meetings, webinars, website visits, and online course participants. So you can add single ones by just clicking on add new item. You enter the date, city, state, number of attendees, and how long it was. Or webinars, you'll just enter date, number of attendees, and how long the webinar was. You can also import these now. So if I were to go back to meetings, this is something new within the last year and a half. So if you click on import meetings, you can actually, download this Excel file and then upload it. And so you can kind of keep that running. And then once a year, you can just come through and add that in. Now, once you get to the final year of your project summary, project comments, and stories and quotes, those are really going to be ones that are really important. We've just completed the BFRDP program evaluation, and these are all things that Amelia really got into with writing the report. So what were the keys to success for the participants? Were there any unexpected results? And then if you were going to do the project again, how would you improve it? Those, again, are really important. When we go to stories and quotes, these are things that Dennis and I have talked about over the years. We've shared some of these so that they can actually use them to advocate for BFRDP funding up on the Hill. And then the final checklist just shows you all of the things that that have been missing. So I talked about the RVS to report document. So if you go up under print, you can click on the report format. That will download what you have as a Word document. And it's gonna open up on a different screen. I will pull it over here. And then I can just walk through and I can copy and paste directly from this into report. Now, one thing that I actually did struggle with as I was writing our report is that you're limited to 8,000 characters. So you may need to, edit some more once you get into report. But this is where you should start so that you get all of this information, and then you can move over into report. So, all right, I'm gonna put my picture back up here, and I'm gonna answer some questions. If you do have questions on it, reach out to me. I didn't put Megan's email in here yet, but don't be surprised if I copy her. And it looks like, all right, so if I go back to Future Harvest's question, the outcomes can be different from the ones listed in the initial grant. I mean, you can add outcomes even now. So if you've found some new ones, feel free to put them into your report. The ones that you put into the initialization, you'll need to respond to, but you can certainly add more. Looks like Vicky's question has been answered. Okay. Brianna asked, how do we edit info in a previously submitted progress note? That's not actually something that you can edit, but you can resubmit a report and then it will be added into there. All right, so if you do need login for RVS, again, contact me. That's my email address. That's the easiest way to get in touch with me. Vicky asked, are there separate questions for beginning farmer total awards, or if not, how do I adjust? Vicky, why don't you reach out to me afterwards and we can talk through that one a little bit. And then when's the deadline for final submission? So the dates here, that the dates that you're actually going to be held to, you have 90 days after your award anniversary date for a report. We try to, if it's a progress report, that is, we try to set RVS a little bit ahead of that just to encourage you to go into RVS first. I believe Laura will talk about this too, but a final report's then due 120 days after your award anniversary date. I will let someone else answer Nicole's question, and I believe that is it. So that was a very rapid fire on RVS. Again, I'm going to go, that's my contact information if you do have questions. Otherwise, go to z.umn.edu/BFRDP RVS help, and you can get a lot more detailed work and detailed information on what goes into RVS. So, all right, Becca, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Sounds good. And I will just pass it right over to Laura.
Great, thank you. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay, can everybody see my PowerPoint presentation? Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Laura Packman. I am a colleague of Adam Porter, who I know presented at your recent PD meeting in Denver. I am a member of the NIFA Planning, Accountability, and Reporting staff. Our team supports both external and internal users of Report. And today I'll be providing some more in-depth information about Report final reports. You'll see a lot of the information in this presentation is going to be similar to Adam's presentation, and that is because the progress report and final report have very similar fields. We'll be covering what Report is and Report resources briefly, but the bulk of the presentation will be on the Report final report with a focus on accomplishment reporting. First off, what is Report? As most of you, I hope know, it's the primary grant reporting system for NIFA-funded non-capacity competitive grant programs. In this system, you input your initial documentation, technical reporting, and financial reporting. The technical reports include the annual progress reports and a final report, and the data entered into Report does become publicly available. The Report resources are available on our website. Under the data section of the NIFA webpage, you can see the Report tool link. There you can find our instructional resources as well as our help desk contact information. The primary resources for Report are the Report Guide for Project Directors and the Report Financial Report Manual. Please note that as a competitively awarded recipient, you'll be wanting to look at the sections under the competitively awarded non-capacity section. And just a heads up, we will be releasing a new version of the guide in the next couple months, so look out for that. And as always, you're welcome to contact our Report help desk at any time if you have Report questions. Our inbox is electronic@usca.gov. Now we're going to dig into the Report final report. The Report final report is due within 120 days after the project end date. And as Curtis mentioned, that's different than the progress report, which is the annual report due within 90 days after the anniversary date of the project. The final report form is located in the final report module, whereas the progress report is in the progress report module. The form is identical to the progress report, but their reporting periods differ. After a project ends, the final report is required, and we also want to note that the annual progress report is not required in the final year of the project. So after your project ends, you'll only be required to submit that final report and not another annual report. Submission of the final report does signify closing of the project, and it can be submitted early to indicate early termination of the project. The final report module has a folder structure, including draft and submitted to NIFA folders. You can see that screenshot of the report system on this slide. And this is the same structure as the progress report module. You can expand the folders to view all the reports within each folder, and one report is listed for each active project. You can utilize the search fields to narrow down the list. And here we want to highlight just a few fields. The end date is the reporting period end date. For the final report, that's the project end date. And for the progress reports, that would be the project anniversary date. To open the editable report screens in both modules, you'll click on the project title. And if you want to view a view-only PDF of the report, you can click on the PDF link in the view column. After clicking on the project title, you'll see the cover page of the report, and that information collects and displays identifying information of your project that's mostly pre-populated from the grant application. If any of those fields are incorrect, please do contact our help desk so that we can assist you. Similar to the cover page, the participants page does have some pre-populated information on it. And again, if any of those pre-populated fields are incorrect, you'll want to contact our help desk so we can help you resolve that discrepancy. For detailed guidance throughout the report form pages, you can use the embedded help text by clicking on the small blue icons next to the fields in report. It's important to note that on the participants page, the FTEs reported on the final report are for the final year of the project only. This is one of only 2 data exceptions of the reporting period being the project duration for final reports. So we like to point that out when talking about the final report. On this page, the FTEs listed and the CIP code section are interconnected data points. And the data points entered here must have a logical relationship. In this example, there are 2 FTEs listed in the graduate column on the FTE table and only 1 listed in the student count below. This will result in an error and you'll be required to update that information so those data points align. Whenever you enter data on a report page, you must click the navigation buttons previous, next, or save to save your work. Clicking on the top menu bar will not save your work if you entered anything new on the page. Several of the report pages include narrative fields like this one on the target audience page. On this page, you describe the target audience. Please note that you will see the nothing to report checkbox as an option throughout the report pages. In the final report, you should be filling out most of these fields, but you will occasionally not need to fill out these sections in a progress report. On the products page, you will enter the major publications, patents, and applications for plant variety protection. All other types of products outputs achieved are reported on the other products page. To enter a new entry, you click the blue plus sign box or you check nothing to report. Please note for the final report, publications should be entered only once per project in report. That means you should not re-enter a publication on the final report that was previously entered on a progress report. We have a view past publications list, which is available on this page. When you click it, a pop-up window will show all publications that you have previously reported for the project, and you should not re-enter these on the final report. On the other products page, you'll enter the significant products and outputs achieved that were not publications, patents, or PVP applications, again, using the blue plus sign to enter. And you can see here there's a variety of different outputs and products on the other products page, including audio or video, databases, models, and other outputs. You'll select the type and then type a description in the description field. The next page is the accomplishments page, and we're going to focus in on all 4 separate entries on this page and focus in on question number 1. The first question on the accomplishments page is what was accomplished under these goals? NIFA defines accomplishments as both the outcomes and impacts achieved from the project work and the results that led to the outcomes and impacts. So in this response field, you're going to be describing the issue, the work and results of the project work, outcomes from the project work, and the impact of your project work. For the final report, that is going to be longer than the progress report, but both of these fields will be following the same structure in both types of report. To understand how to write your response to question 1, we're going to talk about outputs, outcomes, and impact. Outputs are the activities, events, services, publications, and other scientific products that result from your efforts.
An element of.
These outputs are reported on the products and other products pages in the final report form. Outputs then lead to project outcomes, and NIFA defines an outcome as a measurable and documented change in knowledge, action, or condition as a result of the project. Outcomes can relate directly to the project objectives and are supported usually with quantitative data. They're often described as increases or decreases, signifying a quantitative change. And finally, the impact explains why those outcomes matter. The impact is often focused on how we see these changes impact individuals, groups, or parts of society. When you think about impact, you want to think about how people are impacted by your project work. And back to the actual report screens, you can see on the accomplishments page, the major goals of the project are auto-populated on screen for your reference. Those are the goals and objectives you entered during project initiation. You may also review the PDF copies of your past progress reports by clicking the View Past Progress Reports link. In that first question field, you're going to want to describe what was accomplished during the reporting period in simple layman's terms. For the final report, that's the entire project. And for the progress reports, that's the individual project year. For the final report, remember to describe the entirety of project duration. It's important to include these 4 elements. Using plain non-technical language, state the issue the project was created to address, describe the work was done and the results of that work, describe the outcomes or measurable changes that occurred as a result of the work, and explain who or what was impacted or potentially impacted by the project work. This response should change why the outcomes matter. I'm guessing Adam probably shared this response example, but we like to use it as a way to demonstrate those 4 elements. So in this example, you see that the issue is stated last, but it does include a description of the work completed, the outcome or measurable change, and the impact of that change. And we always like to give some helpful hints for describing accomplishments. We want to write for a broad audience and use general terms, again, plain, non-technical language, explain things simply and directly, use quantitative values to validate your impact, describe that outcome or change in knowledge, action, or condition. And remember that most people who read these reports are not technically trained, so you want to write in a manner that's meaningful to all readers. Questions 2 through 4 on the accomplishments page are also required, but we always kind of skip over them when we're describing the accomplishments page. And I wanted to make sure we cover those as well today. The opportunities for training and professional development, you want to describe the opportunities for training and professional development to both anyone who worked on the project or anyone who is involved in the activities supported by the project. So make sure to include both of those elements. For question 3, you'll describe how the results were disseminated to communities of interest. And that basically is telling the reviewer how you reach those target audiences. So it's the methods and efforts to reach your target audience and share those results. And lastly, question 4 is actually not required for a final report. So you get to take a break and check that nothing to report checkbox since there is no next reporting period. If it was a progress report, you could list here any changes to your project plan that you plan to implement in the next project year. On the changes and problems screen, you can describe any significant changes or problems with the project to include any reasons for early termination. So if you are ending a project earlier than the listed award date, you'd want to list the reason why in this field. In the final report, the last page, which is the submission page, is actually called the terminate page. And that's because it does terminate the project when you submit the final report. In the progress report, the format is the same, except the title of the page is submit. On the terminate page, you'll see some errors if all of the fields have not been completed and all the required progress reports have not yet been submitted. So this slide just shows all of the errors that could occur if you did not complete any required fields and you had outstanding progress reports. This is how it will look after all of the required fields are completed and all of the progress reports have been submitted. You'll click Submit to NIFA to submit the report or save to make additional edits later. And in most of your cases, you have the right to just submit directly to NIFA. But if you do only see submit for review, that means your organization does require internal review and the report site administrator at your organization submits to NIFA. I believe for most of this program, you have submission rights yourself. And just quickly, I want to cover how NIFA uses this data. It's important to know that the data is made public almost immediately through the NIFA data gateway. Overnight, the information you submit and report is available on the data gateway. The public can search for specific project information in the enterprise search or view some of the canned reports that are available on the leadership management dashboard. With that, I'm coming to the end of my presentation. Thank you again for inviting PARS to present today. Your work and input are essential to NIFA's mission, and we thank you for your ongoing efforts. As I mentioned earlier, I just want to reiterate that our help desk is electronic at usda.gov, and we're happy to help if you have any report questions in the future. And this is our non-discrimination statement, which we provide for all USDA presentations in accordance with federal civil rights law. I'll leave this on the screen for just a minute or two while I close my share and check to see any questions. And I'll turn it back over to Becca if we're gonna kind of walk through the questions. I'm sure there's been a lot.
Yes, and I'll let Aisha actually is on. She's going to read out some for you, and we'll do those first, and then I'll share the outcomes guide after we work through some questions.
All right, so the first question is, does the same rule apply for other products in terms of not entering items previously reported?
Unfortunately, no. So on the other products, you do have to enter each of those. It's only the publications that you don't re-enter on the final report.
All right, the next one is, we are working to submit our final report via report system. The system is not populating a reporting template to fill out. I emailed screenshots as attachments on November 1st. How do we proceed?
I've replied to all the electronic inbox emails. So if you haven't emailed our inbox, please do send us an email and we'll get back to you within the day.
Okay, the next one is there a single PDF Word doc that includes all questions that are included in report?
There is not a outside the system list of the questions, but you can, when you go into the system, click that PDF copy and you can see all the sections that are basically input into the report. Each screen has those fields, and this PowerPoint that I presented today does include all of the fields. So this is going to be provided to you as a resource. So you can use the PowerPoint I provided today as a resource for those fields.
All right, next one is on how have results been disseminated to communities of interest? Is it asking more about our outreach efforts to reach and recruit program participants, or more about sharing the results of the work under this project with stakeholders?
More the latter, so sharing the results, but ideally the target audience would be part of that results share. But yes, the results is really how you're disseminating them is the main focus of that question.
Okay, next one is, will we receive notification that final reports have been accepted and project has been closed?
So when you submit your final report, you receive a confirmation email with the PDF of the report attached. And Dr. Ebadagi receives that same email. So he's CC'd on that email. And if there's any issues with the submitted report, he would reach out to you to clarify any edits needed. So unless you receive notification of changes needed from the program staff, once submitted, you can consider that closed and ready to go. For all grant programs, we also have grant management specialists who handle all of the funding side of the house and financial reporting that's also required. So you may also receive contact from the grants management specialist that's listed on the award when they're actually processing the closeout of the award, because they will be looking to make sure all of the required reporting was received.
All right, we have two more questions. Should we contact the help desk if the link for our project is not clickable within the report portal?
Yes, absolutely. It depends on what situation you have. If you don't have a clickable title link, it may be that you're not listed as the project director or AOR on the award, and those are the only two individuals with access to reporting and report. But I am happy to help with that. So please do email our help desk.
All right, and the last one is there a character or word count for each answer? And is that indicated as you input information?
For all of the text fields, it's an 8,000 character limit. It's in the informational box for each field. So 8,000 characters, as Curtis mentioned, is the limit on all of the entries in report. RVS and report were never linked together. They were never connected. So that I was just answering the Future Harvest question. But the export part, Curtis may be able to address. Yes, I'll go ahead and plug in our help desk email in the chat.
Yeah, just to follow up that Laura's right. The only way that it was actually linked was that you could export that Word document and then copy and then paste that into report. So that still exists, just under the print option in RVS.
I believe that was all the questions.
Well, let me share my screen really quick with just one final wrap up, and then feel free to put in any additional questions. We have about 15 minutes left. All right, so just to share this BFRDP outcomes-based reporting guide, there's a QR code there, and you can go ahead and use your phone. I will also put the link for that directly into the chat. This is an updated guide that we developed specifically for BFRDP. It talks about BFRDP outcomes specifically and what we're looking for when we talk about outcomes, the reporting terms and the systems and how that applies to both report and RVS, what you heard about today. So just some screenshots from that. You'll see as well a summary of reporting steps for BFRDP grantees. So what you heard today, it's all kind of compiled into one document with due dates as well. And then, like I said, some additional guidance on what we mean by outcomes-based reporting. So it has the steps there on report initialization and RVS initialization, which you all should probably have already completed. The RVS annual report, and then report annual report, and then the report final technical report with those due dates. As Curtis mentioned, the clearinghouse RVS due dates are technically set a little bit before that 90-day or 120-day end date, just so you can do that export, get it plugged into RVS, and then transfer over that information to report, so you're not having to do duplicate reports or double reporting. And then we also do have the steps for financial reports and the due dates for those. And then finally, on the document, there's some instructions and help guides, that RVS help link that Curtis talked about, the report link, and then some additional resources on that financial reporting. So I just wanted to share that really quick. Feel free to take a look at that link in the chat. It should link directly to the document. And again, let us know if you have any questions. And then I think there's a question in the chat there for no cost extensions. And when and how can we apply for a no cost extension for a BFRDP grant? How does that get reflected in our final report date? Dennis, would you be okay answering that one?
Yeah, sure. With the no cost extension, you request for 1 year at a time, but no more than 2 years. So your project will be 5 years at the most. And once you request for it, you can send email to Becca, Aisha, or myself, and we'll send you the requirements to apply for a no cost extension.
Looks like there's another question in the chat.
So I see a question about the final financial reports. So at the end of the project, you'll be submitting both the SF 425, which is a PDF form, to the Grants Management Division. All competitive awards require that. The awards at USDA.gov inbox is the recipient of that PDF form. I can quick pull up the web page for that 1 second. And then in the report system, there's a final report, final financial report module, and it's structured the same way as the annual. So it's a very similar process where you complete that 1-page report form on screen and submit to NIFA. There is one slight variance in that final financial report module. The submit option is available for individual reports. So the submit option is actually in the action column versus a button on screen. But there are detailed guidance on how to use that new module, and I'll plug those into the chat as well. It was released last fall, and here are the addendum instructions for that final financial report module.
I don't see any other questions in the chat, so unless we have some last minute ones that come in, Dennis, do you want to close us out?
Lynn is here. Lynn is our guest today. Lynn, do you have any questions for us? Yeah. Laura and Curtis, we want to thank you for your presentations today. Becca, thank you for moderating. And Laura and Curtis, do you have any final comments? Okay. We thank you all. And on the side note here, in regards to requests for applications, we have been receiving lots of questions regarding when the next RFA will be out. It will be out in February with a deadline in April. And we don't have very many changes, but if you have any questions, please reach out to us. The maximum award will remain at $750,000. Becca, back to you.
All right, thank you very much. This is being recorded, so we will make sure to send out the recording after this. Thank you very much. Yeah, like we said, feel free to reach out to any of us after this. We are definitely here to help, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.